being here for it. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right. So she kind of just introduced us. My name's Logan. This is my wife Kyra. Most of you know us in years, but it's our 5th year teaching here, and together we've been to 22 countries and 26 states. So we're going to be going over some of those countries we traveled this last summer over in Europe. So very excited to share this with you guys.
So some of you were at our last presentation. We also went to Europe last time and this summer, but this time we only went for about half the time, about a little bit over a month. 2 months was kind of too long to be away from home, so 1 month was about perfect. While we were gone, we went to 9 different countries: Belgium, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Denmark, the Czech Republic, Poland, Hungary, Austria, and Germany, all in 1 month.
Yeah, it was a busy month. I don't know if I would recommend doing it that quick. We had a blast. Don't regret anything, but the first trip, we were slowed down a lot more. Whereas this trip, we were like, all right, we gotta get here, let's get over here, let's get this done, get this done. We saw a lot of stuff. We were just packed up trip.
Yeah.
So we were trying to get as much done as possible. Our first stop on this trip, we went to Brussels, Belgium. We spent 3 days in Brussels. We visited the Atomium, the Triumphal Arch, and we also took a nearby, like a day trip is what we called it, which I also don't recommend, and I'll talk about here in a little bit, but we went and visited Antwerp, Bruges, and Ghent, which were amazing cities, beautiful. If we go back, when we go back, I would spend like 1 day in Brussels and like 2 weeks in those places. Cool little towns, they're beautiful. We'll be showing you some pictures in a second.
So here's Brussels. Like Logan said, we went to the Atomium and then the Triumphal Arch. The Atomium was just kind of a structure that you can go into. I think it was it stairs or elevator?
Yep, there was a stairs and elevator in there, and the picture does not do it justice. It was huge.
And you could go in each of those little walls, and they had lookouts where you could see out on the town. So it's pretty cool. And then the Triumphal Arch was just like a gateway into the city.
When I was talking about our day trip, this was the first city that we went to, was Antwerp. We woke up in the morning. It was one of those days. We didn't spend a ton of days in Belgium because we were, like I said, it was 38 days. We were trying to get as much done as fast as possible, and we went and visited these 3 towns. When we got on the train, I want to say we were just talking about it. I think we left Brussels at like 5 in the morning. So we got up at like 4:15, 4:30 to get to the train. Went to Antwerp and spent 3-4 hours in the morning. No one was up. Cafes, nothing was really open. We were just walking around the town by ourselves, which was kind of nice, but it was, there was nothing really going on. And then we rode the train to another town, spent a few hours, rode the train to another town, spent a few hours. Great day, saw a lot of stuff, but man, we were wore out the next day. Like our next day was gone because we were just tired of walking, and we did as much as we could that day. Antwerp was beautiful. There's a little castle right there, and then you can see in the buildings, I mean, the whole town, this is just a little tidbit of it, but the whole town looked like that. It was so beautiful.
Are those apartments?
Yeah, it's actually like down below here, there's a lot of people walking, that's why we cut it off, but down below here there would be like little cafes, restaurants, and then like all the buildings that, up above there would be like apartments, or, say like some of the buildings would have 2-3 stories of like a coffee, or a coffee restaurant, or, but a lot of them were apartments, I would say.
Yeah, and Belgium's known for like their architecture of the houses, how they're kind of like triangles at the top.
Yep.
The postcard I actually got from Brussels was shaped like the houses. Yep. So the same day we went to Bruges, so we spent like 3 hours here as well. We kind of walked a big circle around the town because on the edge of the town there was like three or four windmills that we could see. So here's a picture of one of them. And then they had like these beautiful canals within the city. You could take a boat tour, but we didn't have enough time to take one, so we just got to see everyone else do it.
So those windmills are not the same as you'd see in like Holland? Mm-hmm. They're not trying to get water.
No, yeah, these ones, I don't even know if they were doing, they were working, but I don't think that they were in use like what they used to. Like the ones in Holland, for sure,
actually,
they're still using,
Yeah, okay.
Yep. They look similar, but yeah, these ones, there was no water. There's water in this picture, but Where this was, there was no water around or anything. It was just kind of in the middle of a park, kind of.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was like they were along like a walking path
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then here was our last place, Ghent, which was another beautiful place. I mean, just from the structure, you can tell all the buildings are just pointy. I mean, that's the best way to describe it. And then I had to show on the left side bikes. Northern Europe, bikes are everywhere. It's unbelievable to see, really. I mean,
Are those theirs or are they to rent?
This is like in front of the train station,
Oh, yeah,
so people like leave their bike there
and
and
just
then
tie
get
it
on the
up
train.
and then they get on the train. And they were, I mean, this picture does not do it justice. There was probably hundreds of thousands of bikes all over on the other side. I mean, all over. But we wanted to take a picture, just to give you a little tidbit of how it looked.
I don't know how you would find your bike when you get back. Because it's like a sea of bikes. Yeah.
Yep.
Are they all locked?
You'd like to think so, but when we were in Amsterdam, they said that I wish I could remember the exact number, but they said they find like 1,000 bikes it's either a week or a month in the canals. So like they said, they have a lot of problem with people just, having too much fun at night,
Yeah.
grabbing bikes, throwing them in the canal. Which
I swear my bike was here.
who would do that? But you can imagine,
Wow.
Yep.
Or lots of them were like missing tires, or like they
Yeah.
were rusty, like they've been there for years. Like maybe they put their bike there and never.
Yeah, you'd see
came
bikes
back.
and you're like, well, I don't think anyone rides this one anymore. But it's still locked up to the. You're like, all right, maybe.
All right. Then our next stop was Luxembourg. We went to Luxembourg City in Luxembourg. We didn't have much time there. We had 2 days. It was beautiful though. We got to see the famous bridge there and the Brock Castmates. We love Luxembourg because it was kind of 2 different cities in one. The older city was kind of in this bowl, and then you could walk around the outside, which was the newer city. The casemates, or castmates, however you say it, they're kind of like, you'll see in a second, they're tunnels in the wall where they would have like cannons and things to protect the city, which were kind of cool to see in person.
So there you can see the bridge that Kyra was talking about, and when she was talking about the city. So down below here, there's like the old town is what they would call it, what they called it, and it's this old city below here, and then all above was like this all newer city, as if we would all be to a new city, Super beautiful. It was turned out to be one of our favorite places. We will for sure go back. It was really expensive. Beautiful though. I mean, it looked like a fairy tale town, kind of. Like, I don't know the best way to put it, but everywhere you walk, you're like, whoa, you kind of feel like you're in a Disney movie. And then the Rock Castmates, that's what was around the old town on the outside of the in the caves and whatnot, and it's what protected the old city. And there was it's over 11 miles is what they told us. Which was unbelievable, yeah.
And there was even dungeons in there where they would keep the prisoners and stuff.
Yep. So it was their old prison, their old army system, all surrounding the whole city. And it was beautiful. I highly recommend Luxembourg. It was an amazing place.
Did you take trains everywhere?
Everywhere, yep, all over the place. I mean, it was.
Once,
Yeah.
twice.
We flew. Yep, I think we flew once from Copenhagen to Berlin, just because of the train ride. I think it was 15 hours, or we had to do 4. We were at $100 flight. We were easy. But yeah, the train system, I can't recommend it enough. It's
Did
unbelievable.
you just have one of those open tickets?
Yep. So you can do a month pass, and then you can do a 90-day pass, or 2-month pass, 3-month pass. You can kind of. We did a month and a half pass or something.
And you just can use it
on and off, yep. And the system's confusing at first because you have to book it on your phone. Then you have to get seat reservations as well. Learned our lesson on that one. So if you book the train, you also have to get your seat.
Oh, you can't just.
So you just book the train and you get on there, and the person comes by to check your ticket. They're like, "Where's your seat?" And they're speaking usually a different . That we're like,
Oh, so you can't just hop on, use your ticket and hop on.
Nope.
Not like
Kind of, but not. You can't just hop on and be like, "Hey, good." No, you gotta book the train. But if you have it's called the Eurorail pass, is what it was called. So if you have that, then you can book the train, get on. Essentially, yes. And it's actually worked great. I mean, we didn't have any issues ever. I mean, a couple times, but nothing crazy. Yeah. Our next stop, we went to Amsterdam. We spent 6 days there. which was nice because we spent, we went 2 days, 3 days, 3 days. Kind of a nice time to sit down for a little bit. Kind of, we were all over the place as well. But the Van Gogh Museum we saw, Anne Frank House. We took a canal tour around the city, and then we also went and saw the Zahnschan's Windmill Village. So we'll show pictures about that here in a minute.
So we went to the Van Gogh Museum. We saw lots of famous paintings. After our first trip, we kind of found out that neither of us are really big museum people. We like to do more activities where we go out and do stuff, see stuff, go to different towns and things. So we did sneak into the Van Gogh Museum because I couldn't not go see Van Gogh. So that's the famous sunflower paintings on the left side. And then Amsterdam, it kind of reminded me of Venice a little bit with all the canals, just a lot more bikes. And they had cars, which was different than Venice too. But yeah, we enjoyed Amsterdam.
Talking about the bikes in Amsterdam, that picture when we were in Brussels of the bike, Amsterdam was like 1,000 times more. It was, you constantly would be walking and you'd stop and you'd have to like look this way, and you'd be like, all right, we can go. And then you'd stop again, you'd have to look and look because there's just bikes and they'll have their headphones. They're going in back and forth from work and we're trying to just,
And they won't stop for you. If you're like in the middle of the street, you better just keep walking because they will plow you right over.
Yeah, it was
with their little horns.
mind-blowing to see how many bikers, and like it was mostly impressive to see how there was. We maybe saw one wreck while we were there, but it like you're watching and you're like, because at first we were talking, we're like, all right, we're gonna rent bikes and go do this, and then we were like, I don't know if we should do this because like it's just the system over there. I can see why what we've read that they're like tourists don't ride bikes your first time to visit and experience it first. And we're like, makes sense. I get it.
I feel like if you're just learning how to drive and you go to try to drive in like Denver traffic and you'd be like, what's happening? That's what it would be like if you went on a bike there. Because I'd be like, nope, I'm gonna walk my bike.
It was cool to see their whole system though. Of like that's how I would say 99% of the people in Amsterdam, that's how they get around is by bike. So everyone's just biking everywhere and you're just trying to figure out how to get across the street. So a lot of fun though. And then this is the Windmill Village. So as we were just talking about the windmills, this one was still in use. It was right next to on the water. And there was I think five or six windmills along this I think it was a big lake. And then we also in Amsterdam visited a botanical garden, which was super awesome because we walked into this big butterfly, like what's it called? Pavilion. There we go. I was like, and there was hundreds of butterflies flying all over the place. You'd walk through and there's just everywhere landing on you. Super cool to see.
All right, now then we went from one bike town to another bike town, Copenhagen. We were there for 6 days again, so again we got to kind of relax for a little bit, do some laundry while we were there. We saw the famous round tower. The mermaid statue was a little disappointing, but we saw it. The Nijhaven Harbor, and then we took a day trip to see the forest tower and got to see some trolls along the way, which were cool.
So here in Copenhagen, the round tower was super cool. So there's no stairs in there. It's just like a ramp that goes around all the way to the top. Yeah, it was super awesome to see. Just one of those things, once you get to the top, you can see the whole landscape of the city, so it was super beautiful. Mermaid statue, it's Copenhagen's most famous landmark, and so we were like, oh, we gotta go see it. Just kind of disappointment. It's not that big.
It's about as big as Hattie, and it's sitting on a rock.
In the middle of the, Kyra had to zoom in on it, and you're like, when we walked probably 3-4 miles to get to it, and we get there and we're like, oh, all right, back to town, Wow. But it was one of those. You got to see it, but it was still.
So it's
not
like
near
something that people rave about?
Yeah, everyone.
It's like
it's Hans Christian Andersen's Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
That's where the musical and all of those things come from.
Yep. And it was, so we were like, we got to see it, but then when you, if you ever go there, go check it out, but just know that you're like, all right, don't plan a whole day around just seeing that.
And there's hundreds of people there,
Yeah.
like hundreds,
Yeah.
taking pictures.
We couldn't believe it because we were like, man, all right. Like we, by this time we've seen a lot of these random landmarks, and we're like, this is the cool. I mean, there was a lot of cool landmarks in Copenhagen, so we were like, we couldn't believe that this is the. But highly recommend seeing it. I mean, Copenhagen was amazing still. So
Can you take a boat closer? No?
We took
We
a
actually
canal
did,
tour,
yeah.
but you don't get any closer than when you are on land
Yeah.
too. So we got to see it from behind and from the front. We got to see it
yeah, we
twice.
saw we got to see it twice.
When we took the canal tours in Copenhagen, there were kids on the banks of the river playing
Oh yeah.
and swimming, and we had several of them moon us.
I believe
So that was
it.
quite
guys
the
get any
experience.
No, but it's crazy that Copenhagen still to this day like it's one of the nicest. I mean, maybe, but like when we were on our boat tour, like there was so many people that would be standing out there waving.
Yeah, well, there were those
You
doing
know.
that too.
But I
That
I
was
could
quite
see
a
that.
shock.
I could see
Waving
that.
and mooners.
I could see that. Yep, I could see that.
All right. Then the Nijhaven district is just kind of a famous harbor in the town. When we were in Copenhagen, it did rain a few days. So when we were there at the harbor, it was rainy and cold. So we took a few pictures, but then we went in and had lunch somewhere. So we didn't spend a lot of time there. The next day, though, we did get to see the Forest Tower. It's called the Adventure Park. So it's pretty much kind of like the round tower that they had in Copenhagen. It's this big spiral walkway that you walk all the way to the top. In the next picture, you'll get to see kind of what the inside looks like. But it was 148 feet tall. And you can, once you get to the top, you can just see the forest all the way around you. And at the top, they have little like labels to tell you like, okay, North America's this way, or in Canada's this way, or whatever.
Yep.
So it's kind of cool to see.
This is kind of how it looked like from the inside. Yeah, it was
You
really
don't
cool
have
with the
fear of heights,
landscape.
do you?
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
it's kinda-
Kyra did not. She was not taking any pictures.
I can't throw my pocket.
She did not trust herself at all. I was like hanging over. Yeah.
Is that glass railing? Or what is it?
No, it was just like a.
Stairs?
Yeah,
Like
just-
stairs.
Yeah. And then they had a big tree in the center that grew kind of up tall. You could reach your hand out and touch it.
So that was a
towered
really
over
cool
the
thing to
tree.
see.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, next place, we visited this little town in Copenhagen. It's called Christiana, and it was really interesting because it's like this town that has no laws within Copenhagen, and so like we weren't in there that long because we didn't really know what was. I mean, we didn't know much, but like it's this town essentially that was made up in like I think the 70s.
Yeah, just-
60s, 70s, where these like a group of people got together and kind of created this town.
Pretty much hippies, I'd say.
Yeah, and
I was like,
in the
on you.
yeah, it is
Yeah.
essentially, and they still. I mean, if you live there, you don't. I mean, it's like a whole separate entity. They have their own flag to Copenhagen. Pretty interesting. We walked through there. Before we went there, right before we went there, there was some bad stuff that happened there, so we were like, all right, we're gonna kind of check it out and then we'll get back out. So, but we felt safe the whole time. It wasn't bad, but pretty interesting. And then there's these trolls that were all over Copenhagen that now they're all actually all over the world. But super cool to see. We went and saw some of the trolls. We saw 3 total, 2, 3, yeah. Which is kind of cool because now we've been looking it up and they have them all over in the U.S. So we talked about trying to go see some over in the U.S. Like I think there's some in Colorado and over in
That's our
Oregon.
closest one is in
I think
Colorado.
the closest is down in Colorado. But one famous artist, what's his name, Thomas?
Gamble.
He did it. He graded one in Copenhagen. That's where it started, and then from then it just blew up. People wanted him to start putting them all over, and then he hides them. So he doesn't give he'll give like a map location, but it's like a broad location. So like people have to kind of, you can't just go like, oh, it's right there. Like you got to go and then you're like, all right, we got to look around this whole area to try to find it.
What was
So
that
it's-
called? Geocaching?
Yeah, it's kind of similar to that. Yep, except you're finding the troll.
How big are those?
Huge.
Are they huge?
Yeah, I mean they were that like the one on the right was probably 15 feet high.
Oh my.
Yeah, it was big. I mean they're not small at all. The one on the left, oh, probably 12 feet roughly, right in there. Yeah, they were big. I mean they make them out of pallets,
Pallets.
Yep. I think that's all he uses is pallet wood, I believe. Yep.
Yeah. Reclaimed wood.
Yep.
You
Reclaimed
could
wood.
actually get up into the right side in his hands, how he's holding. You could get up
Yeah.
there and stand.
Yeah.
So that kind of shows you how big he is.
Yeah, because I think I got in there and Kyra took a picture of me standing in the hands. So like, if you can imagine me standing, I mean, they're huge. And I think they're all a little bit different. So I mean, he changes them a little. I mean, but they're all the ones we saw were really big.
All right. Our next stop, we were able to go to Berlin, Germany. We were there for 4 days. Germany was full of history. So we got to see the Berlin Wall, Checkpoint Charlie, the East Side Gallery, and then we also took a river cruise through the city. While we were in Berlin, it rained a lot there too. So we had to wear rain jackets quite a bit.
When were you there? What month was this?
This was in June.
Oh, pretty early.
Yeah, and it was. Fortunately, when we were there, it rained a ton. Like, I mean, everyone I've talked to says it rains a ton up there. But yeah, we got kind of unlucky a few days. But I mean, we made it through. But it was definitely raining quite a bit when we were there. We used our umbrellas a lot. Berlin was awesome. Like what she was talking about the history. You know, it's fascinating when you're growing up. You hear about all the history of World War II and everything, but to go see it, it was unbelievable to see the wall, to see, Checkpoint Charlie, to see, not even just the history, but just to hear all the Germans when we go on tours, to hear them speak about it, and it was super fascinating just to hear different perspectives of, how it turned out, and, I mean, it was super interesting. It's kind of not funny, but like Kyra and I would always like look at each other a little stranger, like, did they say that? A lot of the tours we'd go on, I would say every tour we'd go on, like the head guy or the tour would always be like, well, when we lost World War II, me and Kyra would be like, well, wasn't that a good thing, but the way they talk about it was super interesting in that way. But it was fascinating seeing everything around there, so that was cool to see. But Berlin, huge city. We definitely learned that we like the little towns a lot better. Just there's a lot going on,
Lots of walking.
Yep.
Big city. Here was the East Side Gallery. We did see the famous paintings. I didn't add the picture in here in case there were kids here. But then we also took a river tour along the famous river. And this is where, the wall had the bullets in it.
Yeah.
So while we were on the river tour, the water had receded down, so you could see part of the wall of like where in the river was. And our tour guide,
I'm not like right in here. Right there.
he pointed out to us that there were actually like bullet holes from the war, that you could see all like the fragments of where war had happened. So it was kind of interesting to see that there was still like remains of that around you. You just kind of had to know where to look.
While we were in Berlin, and we kind of planned it this way on purpose, I really wanted, at the time, like there was the Euro, which I'm not a huge soccer guy, but I just like sports, and Euro is like one of the biggest soccer tournaments ever. I mean, it's probably bigger than the Olympics for soccer. I mean, World Cup, but then the Euro. And so it's where like all these countries play each other. So, you got England, you got Spain, it's only European countries. And soccer's huge over there. Well, we got really lucky that in Berlin there was a game going on at the same time when we were there, and I was like, we got it. So we went, and it was super, super cool that we went, because with the game we saw, Spain won, and then they ended up winning the whole thing. So after we kind of, through our whole Europe trip, because this was kind of early on, the rest of the trip we were cheering on Spain, and they ended up winning the whole thing, so it was cool to see the team that won the whole thing. And like the atmosphere is nothing compared to anything I've ever been to. I mean, it's not compared to NFL, NBA, NHL. We didn't sit down for 30 minutes. I mean, there was like, you just couldn't sit down during the game. Like the game was on, everyone was standing. We were in the Spain section.
Yeah.
And let's just say there was like one section for Spain. Everyone else was Croatian fans. So it was unbelievable. And me and Kyra were like, go Spain.
It we had to buy Spain shirts so that we fit in
Yeah,
our section.
yeah,
We didn't want them to think that we
yeah.
were the other team. So,
But it worked out good. But it was crazy. I mean, the people over there, they just take it. I mean, when the first goal was scored for Spain, we weren't prepared for what was about to happen. We had no idea. Everyone in Spain started throwing their drinks at everyone. So like, me and Kyra are standing here and we're just like, what is going on? And then we're soaked and we're like, well, go Spain, you know? But it was just, I've just never been to something like, I mean, there was people that had tubas, drums, people were lighting flares in the, yeah, I was like, man, none of this would happen in the States at any of the Bronco games I've been to. So that was awesome to be at. I mean, none of the people around me spoke English. They were all of them were from Spain, except for probably Kyra and I, which was super crazy. Because I was trying to talk to them, but my Spanish only got me so far. But we still had fun. We were high-fiving when they were scoring. So
yeah. It was fun too because we kind of followed the soccer as we were in Europe. So we would come home from a day out and at the hotel and kind of watch the team that was whatever was playing. So it was kind of fun to follow along while we were there. Okay, next up, we went to Prague, Czech Republic. We took a train to Prague. We stayed for 4 days. We saw the Charles Bridge, the Prague Castle, Old Town Square, and we also took a boat tour through the city here as well. We took lots of boat tours this trip. Yeah. We also met up with one of Logan's good friends while we were here. He lives in England, so we were able to meet up with him kind of and see him too.
Yeah, so Prague, if those of you that don't know, it is maybe the most beautiful European city. It was amazing. Highly recommend it. We will go back. It was, I mean, it's beautiful. I mean, you're just, the whole time, like even in all of the European countries we've been to, that was the one country when we would be walking around the city, you're like, whoa, I feel like I'm in Europe. Like the whole time. It just, I don't know, it just felt old, like super old, and looked like all the movies when you're growing up, looking at Europe, all that, yeah. Charles Bridge was awesome. We walked across that a ton because we would go from one side of the city to the other, and there was this beautiful hill. It's not in this picture, but there's this big, can't remember the name of the hill, Buddha Hill, I think? Can't remember for sure, I'll think of it, but we hiked up there and you could see a huge, beautiful landscape of the city, which was amazing. And then this was Prague Castle, which was, you know, just one of those landmarks that in Europe, all those beautiful castles, the cathedrals are just amazing to look at.
And at one point, I think Charles Bridge was the only bridge to get to the castle.
Yes, it was,
right?
yep.
So
Yep.
that's why it was kind of on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
The Old Town was one of our favorite old towns we've ever been to. It was in Prague. It was kind of this big open square with restaurants all the way around, and then in this kind of in the center was a big bell tower. So that's what we're in this picture,
yep.
Up at the top, and the clock would go off like every hour or so, and had a little show to it where like little things popped out and did dances and sing and whatever. So that was kind of one of our favorite things to do, was just hang out in the square in Prague. And then again, we did a boat tour during sunset. Very cool.
Well, our next stop, we went to Krakow, Poland. We took a train where we stayed for 3 days. While there, we visited Schindler Factory, the old town, and then took a day trip to Auschwitz and Birkenau.
So here's the Schindler Factory. If you've ever seen Schindler's List, here's the actual factory we got to see. We got to see his office. We got to see a big display of like the pots and pans that they would make at the factory. If you're not familiar with the story, Oskar Schindler, he owned the factory, and he would get Jewish workers to come work at the factory and kind of save them from the concentration camps. It's a really good story if you haven't ever heard of it. I'd definitely recommend the movie. And then here's just the old town. This is one of our, also probably tied for our favorite old towns as well. Again, it was like this big open square, and then in the middle was this building, and it was kind of like, I don't know what you'd compare it to.
You could like walk through the middle, and there was like shops on both sides, all over the place, and there was like bracelet, you know, just like typical shops walking through, and they're just trying to sell you stuff, and then there would be food stops, and all through the middle there. But the old town was so fun because like at night, on like every other random street, they would have live music playing, just like kind kind of like Vegas, but like street performers where it would be actual, like a band a little bit, more so than just like one person. There would be one person singing, but such a fun place. I mean, we weren't expecting it to be such a fun place at night to go walk around and all these restaurants, everyone was playing music. Seemed like a really prideful country, to be honest. Like they were all out on the streets having fun, and it was really cool to be around.
Okay.
Yeah.
We also took this picture at like 6 in the morning. That's why there's no people. We were probably like the only ones out, and the garbage man. I think we saw him, but that's why there's no people.
We saw a lot of the garbage men on this trip
In the morning.
because we figured out that getting up in the morning is the coolest, and there's less people of trying to see everything.
Yeah, how hot was it?
Oh, in the afternoons it got terrible.
It was warm. Not as warm as last summer though, because it did rain a lot.
Yeah.
And so we weren't really prepared for that. When we packed this time, we packed like we did for our last trip, was more southern, so the weather was warmer. So when we showed up northern, it was like we were a little chilly. I wore
Yeah, we
pants
were
for
not
like
prepared.
the first 2 weeks.
We
And
thought
then
we were
brought one pair
prepared,
of
but we were not prepared.
So, yeah, a lot chillier.
But by this time it was getting warm. Like
It was.
it wasn't raining as bad at this time. It was just more so like Amsterdam, Brussels, and Copenhagen.
We're chilly.
Were chilly and
Yeah.
rainy.
I think the
There's
skies
time.
look different.
Yep.
Yeah.
Did you have a chance to go to the salt mine?
We did actually. Yep. We did. Yep. We'll be showing that. Yep. Amazing.
Yeah.
So we actually went on a tour to Auschwitz, Birkenau, and the salt mine, and super heavy day. You learn, like we were talking about earlier, you learn about World War II, you learn about the history. The size and capacity of how much people were held there is way more than I ever imagined. I mean, you're walking through there and the whole time you can't believe, like, it's hard to even put into words how big it is. It was just the whole day. I mean, me and Kyra were like mind blown the entire moment. So you'd be walking and you just feel like they'd bring you through different tours to see things. Pictures that we weren't going to show just because it's like, whoa, it's heavy. I mean, we were able to walk through the first gas chamber. Can't think of it. And that was unbelievable to see because like you could go through and you could see, where people were trying to get out. And so when we took pictures of that, but it's heavy stuff. I mean, and then Birkenau was way bigger than I imagined. I mean, Auschwitz was big, but Birkenau was, and I didn't know that before this, that it was two different kind of entities. Birkenau was massive. I mean, they held thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people there. Like, you could see from the structures that were torn down. They're going on for miles.
It was like further than you could even see, and they would get to a forest, and it was even past the forest and in the trees. Like, we couldn't even see it all with our eye.
It was pretty interesting also to find out that, like, right at the end of the war, like, they started tearing down a lot of the buildings, their own stuff, because they were trying to hide it a little bit. And so, like, but they did, there was buildings that were still held up. And, man, it was, we walked through it and you could see where they kept everyone.
And do they say that in the tour? Like, do they say they tore it down?
Yeah. And wait, the thing is that they couldn't get the chimneys. So you could look and you could see, like, chimney, I mean, just for forever, and you're like, whoa, like that was a building that held 500 people. That was a building that held 500. That was a building, and they're all torn down except for, I mean, there was still some that were still up, but a lot that were torn down that was like, you're like, whoa.
You didn't do both of them in one day, did you?
We did, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, we did.
What a
Yeah.
bummer.
It was a, I mean, the whole day, like I said, the whole day, Kyra and I were just like mind blown, and it was heavy, it was raining.
I was gonna say, this picture, it looks like it's nice, but when we got there, it was gloomy
We were like,
and
of
rainy,
course.
and like, it was like a
Yep.
bad feeling.
Yep.
Yeah, we didn't include a lot of pictures because I didn't quite know who our audience was gonna be, so you just Google it, I'm sure you could find the pictures we took too. So we did go to the salt mine while we were there. Lots and lots of stairs. Does it say? 800 stairs. So there's this video. I don't know if I can play it. But all of those are railings all the way to the bottom of all the stairs we had to walk down.
Yeah.
Oh, Kyra, you were quite scared.
And the stairs were like quarter step, like they weren't full stairs. So it was a long
It
little
was
walk.
interesting because like those stairs lead down to this huge. It's like a
Like a church.
essentially. I mean, they've done weddings in there. There's it's beautiful though. And this is 800 feet down below the. Well, it's more than 800 feet, but it was 800 steps down. I think it was 1,000 feet deep.
So all those chandeliers and everything are made of salt.
Salt.
Yeah, everything down there,
Everything
which is
salt.
unbelievable. Yeah.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah, and we only saw like a tiny chunk. I mean, a tiny chunk. Like they say that it's over 180, 170 miles all around the whole thing. So we saw like tiny percentage. So we were only in there for like an hour or 2 hours maybe.
Are they still mining salt?
Oh yeah, I mean they're there, and then we also visited another one in Hallstatt, Austria, and I believe Hallstatt's the oldest in the world. That's what they say, but
This one was definitely more modernized.
Yeah.
Like they definitely used like technology and stuff to like carve out the chandeliers and the walls and things like that. The other one we visited wasn't as modern, I'd say. This one was interesting because you'd go in these tunnels and our tour guide would be at the front of the tour and she'd have to make sure that the door closed behind us, so we were all on one section. So that way, first, no one got lost, but second, there was like a wind suction.
airflow,
Yeah, the airflow, so that the doors would, if someone left the door open, then we couldn't get this door to go open type of thing. So you had to be very careful with.
highly recommend this. So if you ever are out in that way, awesome tour.
So now, did the Nazis store like art and stuff in the salt mines?
I mean, I would not put it against that.
I
Yeah,
didn't
they
know if
didn't
they
say
covered that.
anything, but I would.
I don't know if that's right or not, but I've always heard that they used the salt mines.
On our tour, they never mentioned anything about that, but I would bet they did. Because, like I said, there was. There was everywhere when you were walking, there was rooms everywhere, left and right, and you're like, man, I wonder how big this place really is. I never know. But I could see that for sure. But they never mentioned it on the tour at all. Our next stop, we went to Budapest, Hungary, and we saw the Fisherman's Bastion, Buda Castle. We went to one of the famous thermal baths, and then we also took another night boat tour, which was amazing. We'll show you a picture here in a little bit. Budapest was awesome. Loved Budapest. At first we were a little like, because it kind of looked dirty right when we got there, and we're like, oh, I don't know. And then after the first day, we're like, oh, this place is amazing. Amazing people, treated us great. Food was amazing. I mean, the pictures we're about to show, you'll see, are of the Fisherman's Bastion, especially, was awesome.
Yeah, so we went very early. I think we got up at like 5 in the morning,
Yep.
6 in the morning-ish to go see the Fisherman's Bastion and the Buda Castle. If you went before like 9 or 8 o'clock,
Yep.
it was free. So we decided to go early so we could get there free, but also because there was no people. There was like 5 people maybe,
Yep.
including us there.
I was the photographer for the day, taking pictures of Kyra.
So it was like a real life castle, like
It was.
Cinderella castle.
Yep. Super beautiful. And then this was the boat tour we were talking about. So at night this building lights up and it's so beautiful. And we rode a boat. I mean, we visited it after as well, but such a beautiful landscape, especially at night. And then this was one of the thermal baths that we visited. It was fun. It was just hot day, so and it's hot water, so we didn't spend too much time in the water, but we had to go visit. I mean, super famous over there. I don't know how the people that live there do that, because on that day it was like 100 degrees, and we were like,
you're sitting in a
I'm
hot
sitting in a hot tub.
On 100-degree weather.
Yeah.
It's not very normal.
But they did have they had cold tubs and whatnot, so we would go sit in the cold tubs. It was a cool experience.
Yeah, the building kind of around that wraps around it is filled with other pools in the inside. So it was like a regular swimming pool, then like a cold plunge, and then like even a hot tub than this one. This was just the outdoor section, I guess. But it was really cool. The buildings that are lit up. This one is the Parliament building, but on the other side of the river there was more buildings lit up too. So we got to see kind of both sides of the river lit up. Then we went to Vienna. We took a train there, we stayed for 4 days. We got to see some other famous palaces there. And then we got to take a day trip to Hallstatt, which is a nearby town, that's where we got to see the other salt mine as well. Hallstatt was one of our favorite little towns too that we got to visit.
So here's a couple of the palaces that we saw. Just huge landmarks. I mean, it's some of the stuff when you're walking around the town, or the city, I should say. The architecture. I mean, it's just so beautiful. You know, I mean, you don't see. I mean, especially here in Lus, we don't see that. But you know, even in big European cities, these huge landmarks of pictures do not do it justice. They're just massive, massive, massive buildings, or structures, I should say. The palaces were beautiful. The Schauenbrunn Palace was amazing, huge place. We walked around there for ever, it felt like.
Yeah, it was like a giant park, like this with walkways and things, and you'd turn a corner and here's this giant building, and then you'd walk the other corner and here's like this flower garden, and then you'd walk the other corner and here's another big building. It was kind of like a scavenger hunt. So here's a picture of Hallstatt. You maybe have seen it before. It's a famous kind of viewpoint from Hallstatt with the church and the little houses. And then there's a picture of us on the salt mine. This salt mine was kind of fun because instead of stairs, they had slides. So you got to slide down to the next level instead of all the stairs. So there's us on one of the slides. And they also made us wear little funny outfits there too.
This was also a crazy day because we took a day trip. And we definitely learned that we are two human beings that use Google Maps a lot. And so we took a train from Vienna to Hallstatt. Well, it's not that easy. I mean, you don't just go. The train doesn't really go right to Hallstatt. It goes to this other side of the lake. And you have to wait for a boat to take you across to Hallstatt. When we get to Hallstatt, Verizon, nation or worldwide, goes down. We didn't know that. You know, we're just having fun on our trip. And so we knew, though. You know, we're like, all right, we're train leaves this time. We need to get back to here, to here, to here. Well, all of our train tickets on our phone's not working. So that, luckily we had our tickets, everything were good. But then we get back to Vienna, and all Verizon's out, so our phones don't work, which was fine, you know. But we took a train to get from our hotel to a different train station to take a train to get to this place. So we got dropped off this train station. We have no idea where we're at. Really, I mean, we're like, kind of have an idea, but you know, we took a train to get there. We were gonna take another train to get here, and we were like, oh man, all worked out, made it safe and sound. We figured out that we don't need phones to survive.
Well, we did, because we found like the grocery store on the corner. We connected to their Wi-Fi to figure out how to get to the app working, and then we
pulled up the maps, and then we were like, all right, we can see the map, we got to figure it out.
It was also like 10 o'clock at night.
That was the worst part, is it's 10 at night, and you know, there's a lot of crazy, there's a lot of interesting people around the train stations at night.
We made it.
Very interesting people around the train stations, not just at night, I should say, all the time. But, and our last stop was Munich, back to Germany. So we stayed here for 6 days. We took another day trip to Rothenburg, and then we also went and saw the Neuschwanstein Castle.
Famous castle. So Munich, it wasn't our favorite. It's a big city. Lots of things to see, I guess, but just nothing crazy that caught our eye. We got to see some famous churches and things, some famous buildings, landmarks, but other than that, wasn't our favorite place.
We did go on a day trip to Rothenburg, which this trip taught us so much about the way we like to travel, for sure. I mean, even compared to our first trip, we just keep learning more and more, but these smaller towns, we just enjoy so much more. We're turning into Lus people, for sure. But the big cities are great, but you know, you see your few different landmarks, and then you're like, all right, there's just, you know, millions of people all over doing. You can go to Denver and do all that, essentially, is my thought. But these smaller towns were beautiful. Rothenburg. This was one town that was not destroyed during World War II, so it was been the same for I don't know how many years, but 14th century, I think it says. But we super interesting to see the architecture, German architecture, the houses that all look like that, and the different colors. Beautiful to see.
famous castle, Neuschwanstein Castle.
There we go.
Yeah, it was breathtaking. The picture on the right, we took kind of from the bus when we got there, and then we got to go up and actually like do the walking path up the viewpoint to see it. And we did take a tour of the inside, but the outside was just way more cooler than the inside. Inside was cool too, but the outside was awesome.
And these are all of our little goodies, our little souvenirs that we brought back in our backpacks. It's hard to bring back a lot of stuff when you have your backpack. I mean, we have our clothes in there, so it's hard to make room for it. But we did make room for a few things. A lot of photo cards, postcards, and Frank book. We had to buy that when we went through the Anne Frank the museum, which was amazing. Yeah.
So what's this, you town for 4 days before going on your next trip? What's that?
Yes, we were in Lusk for about 4 days, enough time for us to kind of do our laundry, dry it, and pack up again. Logan's parents actually were surprising us with a trip when we got back.
Yeah.
They weren't telling us where we were, we just knew we had to get on the airplane at this time, this place, and then it had a connecting flight, or connecting somewhere, so we flew actually from Rapid City to Minnesota, and then Logan's parents picked us up in Minnesota, because we didn't think Minnesota was our final destination. They weren't going to tell us where our final destination was. They were going to drive us to it. So we actually ended up going to Niagara Falls was our next adventure. So
Yep, did a little road trip over there,
we
which was
jumped
fun.
right back into it.
Yep, so we were back in Lusk for 4 days. Not even though we got back to Denver, stayed the night in Denver, drove here. Spent 3 days, did laundry.
Yeah, I had a cousin's wedding.
Oh yeah, and then we went to a wedding in between that too. I was like, there was something else.
Yeah, and then we got on the flight.
And then we got on the flight the next day after the wedding. So it was kind of, we didn't feel like we were in Lusk until August, essentially. So.
All right, if you're keeping track, we were on our trip for 38 days. We traveled on 14 trains. We took 4 ferries, 6 flights, and took 5 boat tours. And we visited 9 countries and 18 towns in 38 days.
Our best food that we had was in Germany. Our favorite places on this trip were Luxembourg, Amsterdam, or Prague. They're all kind of 3 tied up there. Our least favorite place was Munich. Our backpacks each weighed around 30 to 35 pounds. And where are we going next? Most likely staying around North America area.
Why?
We have a little one on the way, so yeah. Backpacking in Europe's gonna be in a couple years. My rule is they've got to be able to talk, walk, and carry. So.
And use a bathroom probably too.
There we go.
Yeah, there you
Yep.
Your backpack might look a little different.
Yes, it will. Yes, it will. But thank you everyone for coming. We really appreciate your time and enjoy it. Thank you very much.
Thanks for doing that.
Is there any questions before we end this up?
What kind of places did you stay in the different towns?
So we learned our lesson from the first trip a little bit. Hostels are great, love hostels, but our space and our peace of mind is,
Our sleep.
our sleep, all the above, and we knew this was a shorter trip, so we did Airbnbs quite a bit, but we also did they have some hostels over there that are very similar to hotels, and so there's a website called Hostel World, and so you can get on there and there's a lot of hostels, but they're really like a hotel.
You get like a private room.
Yeah,
like a
so you
hotel.
can get like a private room at this hostel. So that was super nice, because then we would pay a little bit extra, still not much, but it was a little bit extra to where it's like, all right, now we have our own space, our own room to keep our stuff.
Did you have your own
Yep.
bathroom in that case too?
Yep. First trip we did not. We learned our lesson.
This
on
trip
that.
we did.
Yeah.
That was a requirement.
That was one of those, we're like, all right, we're gonna spend a tiny bit, little bit more money to do this, which was nice. I mean, we didn't stay in super nice places, but it was still, having our own space was so nice. I mean, being able to come, especially for a long day of walking, when you'd come back and we'd be like, all right, we're gonna go to sleep. You didn't have to worry about noise or people coming in and out, and having your own bathroom. Yeah, Northern Europe was definitely, we noticed was a little bit more expensive than Southern Europe, we thought. And we didn't do anything really too bougie or anything that was out of the ordinary. It just seemed like, food, everything seemed a little bit more expensive in Southern Europe.
So why was the German food the best?
Oh, I just felt like I ate schnitzel so much, like that. When we were talking about food, I just couldn't get it out of my mind. I was like, this is the one food that was my favorite. So good. And then she had a.
I had some it was almost like a pasta dish. I can't remember the name. Splatzel or
Casplatzel, yeah, something like that. So good. It was like a mac and cheese kind of, but made up. I don't know how to explain it, but
it was my favorite.
Very
the whole
good,
trip.
yeah. So we felt like German food was really good. We had good food throughout, though. In Poland, their pierogies were amazing. Really good.
The what?
It's pierogies.
Pierogies? What is
Yeah.
a pierogi?
It's like
The noodle.
yeah.
like a
The
ravioli.
potato stuffed
like a-
noodles. They
yeah.
put anything in them.
Yeah,
They have pierogi fests in Indiana.
so
They're
good.
crazy.
So good.
Sardine wrap.
Oh.
Yeah, they boil them, they fry them, they
Very good.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
pierogies.
Chris
are-
has been trying, but they're not quite the same.
You can get Mr. T's. You can get Mr. T's and they're pretty spot on.
Butter.
Yeah.
Butter.
Yeah, it's a Polish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, super famous over there, and they're amazing. When we ate them, when we were in Poland, we ate that every day. Seemed like, or at least had it for like a little appetizer or something beside. Is there any other food that sticks out to
The
you?
Stroop waffles in Belgium, the waffles.
Chocolate, the waffles.
And ice
the
cream. How about
oh my
ice cream?
goodness.
Yeah.
Did you try the ice cream?
Oh, all the
man.
desserts everywhere. My wife will not let me go anywhere without having desserts. We got,
I couldn't get
always
enough
taste
ice
it
cream when we were there.
Well, obviously, Kyra ate way too much ice cream.
Yeah. So did I. No, the desserts there are amazing. The whole culture is just so different. Like the atmosphere of going out to eat or have a drink, it's like the atmosphere. You go out there and everyone's doing it outside. While you're walking around, you're people watching. So different to over here where everyone's inside for the most part. I mean, there's cities that have outdoor areas, obviously, but just being able to people watch over there, love that so much. See so much while you're sitting out there eating food and. Any other questions or any other comments or anything?
Did you notice that it was very clean when you were there? The streets and like
Oh, yeah.
the trains?
They do a
Some
really good job.
places,
They do a good job. Amsterdam was very interesting to see because we would wake up every morning at like we said around 6 and get our stuff going and walk around. So we would always see the garbage people every day. And Amsterdam was so disgusting.
We had to Google their garbage process because it was so interesting. Like they would have the garbage truck come around, dump the garbage can like halfway in the garbage truck and halfway on the ground. Then they would have guys come by and sweep the rest like in dustpans and things. But then there'd still be lots left over and you're like, what? Why is this your process? Why not just dump it all in the garbage truck to begin with? It was the
It made
most
zero
bizarre
sense to us.
process.
And we tried to figure it out for 6 days. We were like, oh, how are they doing this? Because like I said,
Why? It's
every morning
amazing.
we'd be walking and you'd see them picking up the streets and we just couldn't figure it out. Like they would dump it on the street, people would come by, ruin it, and then the other people would come by and pick it up. I'm like, what?
And then there'd be people even washing after them. It's like,
It's
this is a whole process.
There's like
Every
8 guys
morning.
doing a lot of.
Maybe they need employment for people.
Yeah, it was working.
Yeah,
I mean,
they
there was.
created jobs.
No, they
for sure.
definitely did. But very interesting place to see the garbage. It was, yeah,
Well, and
can imagine.
we were told that many of the coffee shops
Mm.
are not really coffee shops.
Yep.
It's more pot shops.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And so you
Lot
can
of
imagine all the
marijuana
garbage.
smell.
You can imagine all the garbage and the craziness. I mean, it was.
It was more like if you imagine like a bachelorette party or bachelor
Yeah.
party type of town.
Yeah.
That's what Amsterdam was
Yeah.
like. Like
Yeah.
everyone is there to just party and have fun.
And we kind of stayed away from all that because we were trying to get, we had so much on our plan, especially in Amsterdam. There's, from the museums to Anne Frank house to, we were like, and it really seemed like kind of, not Vegas, but there wasn't gambling, but, I think there was gambling, but not like Vegas, but like it was that atmosphere, yeah. Like you'd be walking around and you'd see like a group of guys that were there for a bachelor party or a group of girls that were there, and you're like, we're here, going there for a you're trying to tour. So super packed place, really packed. Awesome place. So I mean, I'd go back. It was good food, nice people. Interesting. Reminded me of Venice a little bit, just with all the canals. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for letting